We
powers to
are
become more and more involved. So
being
yes,
told that we are being joined by Sreeram Chaulia as well on this broadcast with respect to the details that Shivani was also breaking down with us. Good morning, sir. We are learning that the latest Pentagon report that has suggested that China has sought to prevent India from deepening ties with the US as well. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I think it's quite an accurate assessment. The Chinese always use border pressure as a means to warn us from taking independent foreign policy decisions and choices. Their objective is to pressurize India and to try and warn us that if we enter any kind of a counterbalancing coalition against China alongside the US, then we will have to bear the consequences. So it's a kind of a, bullying tactic that they use to try and warn us as to how far we can go in terms of...
Well, yes, Sreeram Chaulia, I will come back to you, but we're being told that Andrew Long, international and independent China strategist, is also joining us on this broadcast. Good morning to you, Andrew. What do you have to say about this latest Pentagon report that has now suggested that China is seeking to prevent India from deepening ties with the US? And it is also in this report, China has stated that taking incremental and tactical actions to press its claim at the line of actual control with India.
Well, first of all, China cannot prevent or coerce India into not aligning with the United States, because it's the policy of India itself, and China cannot exercise any influence on that. And India has always been quite independent in its own national interest. But as far as the line of actual control is concerned, it's fair to say that these lines have remained not clearly defined, and the border clashes and border misunderstandings have been going on for decades. It's high time that both leaders really come to some kind of a consensus and conduct a very detailed asking the ministers to conduct a very careful and meaningful dialogue to settle this, if not entirely all at once, but at least one spot at a time. Now, the latest measure to build villages, of course, China feels threatened by some of these border clashes. Of course, to India, some of these areas belong to India, but the same can be said to China. And it is in the views of the Chinese nation, these areas are part of China's territory. Well, that's why both claims clash. But to strengthen their own defenses, obviously, it's understandable that China would like to actually install various civilian kind of settlements there, because there are, in fact, people live quite near the border areas. And the latest law in China is to enable the establishment not only the settlement of these villages, but also building infrastructure and government facilities, so as to actually turn these areas into a proper civilian settlement. Well, this is understandable, but I don't think that this is a tactic to pressurize India into not aligning with the United States. Well, this is totally a fabrication. But it still remains that these border areas are highly disputed, and rhetoric is not going to solve the problem.
Well, Andrew, what you're saying is very interesting, and let me take that across to Sreeram as well. Dr. Sreeram, we heard Andrew Long talk about how India is a standalone country, and that this may not be because that China wants India to prevent it from deepening ties with the US as well. What do you have to say about this latest Pentagon report, and also on Andrew Long's remarks on this as well?
Well, first of all, I think China does want to prevent India from getting closer to the US. There's no question about it. Their official mouthpieces like the Global Times, China Daily, Xinhua, keep on warning India, stay away from the US. They're trapping you. They are using you against China. They have this very, very outdated view that India is basically a subservient and a servile power that is being used by the US against China. So the Chinese always often talk about this, and there's nothing hidden or nothing much left for interpretation there. It's quite obvious. And the border conflict has been ratcheted up by Xi Jinping's regime as a means to warn India from further joining this counterbalancing coalition against the US. The Chinese are feeling the pressure of the Quad, where India, United States, Japan, and Australia are increasingly ramping up their joint maneuvers in the Indo-Pacific. So there is a clear attempt to try and pressurize India to say that there is going to be a cost. If you dare challenge China's hegemony, there's going to be a cost for you, and that is going to be our pressure on the border. So I think there is a link between this. As far as the Chinese building villages on their side of the LAC is concerned, the problem is that it is disputed, and there are many agreements going back to the 1990s where both sides agreed not to build this kind of infrastructure and not to provoke the other side. But the Chinese are continuously doing it because they think they have the upper hand. They thought that India was down with COVID. They thought India had a weak leadership, and we have proved them wrong on all these counts. We are going to repel them. We have already pushed them out of
that's true.
Pangongso. We have put them out of Gogra and Hot Springs. We are going to push them out of Demchok. We are going to push them out of Depsang. And all these places along the LAC where they're trying to pressurize us, they think they have the advantage of asymmetry and of superiority and of military and economic superiority, but they did not reckon for a very strong-willed political leadership in India. So if Xi Jinping is a nationalist...
Yes, those are very interesting points, both by Dr. Sreeram Chaulia and Andrew Long. I thank you both for bringing your expertise on this breaking news that we're getting in about the latest Pentagon report that has suggested India has sought, China, I beg your pardon, has sought to prevent India from deepening ties with the US as well. I thank both my guests for being on this broadcast.